fans again, calling them toxic as if her fans, because KTV is a Caitlin Clark fan. She's my favorite basketball player to watch, male or female. Point blank, period. Now she's calling us toxic for saying the obvious about the sabotage that was going on in this league and how this woman has been targeted since before she even stepped foot in it, all while Stephanie White wants to ignore the facts of what the other players in this league have done, from disrespecting fans, starting fake racial investigations.
All right, get ready for this, because the words that exploded from Stephanie White's mouth have sent shockwaves, literally plunging the WNBA into an absolute maelstrom of chaos. She didn't just casually comment, she openly called fans toxic, a direct, undeniable shot that countless people immediately interpreted as being aimed squarely at Caitlin Clark's incredibly devoted and ever-growing fan base. And let me tell you, that ignited nothing short of an inferno of outrage across social media and the entire basketball community. This wasn't some accidental slip-up or a careless misstep. No, this felt like a calculated, deliberate statement, and now fans are absolutely demanding answers. More importantly, they are vociferously calling for her immediate removal from her coaching position with the Indiana Fever. The entire league is reeling from this, grappling with the astonishing question of how a coach could so brazenly alienate the very audience, the passionate supporters who are undeniably driving its unprecedented, record-breaking growth. This unprecedented and frankly shocking attack on the very fan base that has single-handedly catapulted the WNBA into mainstream consciousness has sent seismic shockwaves through every single corner of professional women's basketball, sparking a firestorm of controversy that simply cannot be ignored.
Wants to ignore the facts of what the other players in this league have done, from disrespecting fans, starting fake racial investigations, going on platform. Like, I'm gonna give you the facts that Stephanie White wanted to leave out. This is nasty work. Welcome to Keep the Vision. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the channel, hit that bell notification, and hype the video. Let's get right into things on a Sunday. Let's get into it. So, we had this article here. Obviously, Stephanie White was recently on Sue Bird's podcast, where she
Now, it's crucial to understand that this isn't just an isolated incident that popped up out of nowhere. No, this is clearly the culmination of a deeply ingrained pattern of behavior. For months leading up to this, Stephanie White had been publicly and consistently downplaying Caitlin Clark's monumental significance to the team and the league, repeatedly and quite explicitly stating that Kelsey Mitchell was, in her eyes, the team's main priority. This narrative, as you can imagine, clashed so sharply and so obviously with the undeniable reality that Clark's arrival literally, single-handedly transformed not just the Fever's profile, but the entire league's viewership figures, sending them skyrocketing to unprecedented levels. Many insiders, those closest to the situation, quietly suggest that White was eventually forced, and let's be clear, pressured, to acknowledge Clark's central and pivotal role. This felt less like a genuine, heartfelt recognition and more like a reluctant concession, a desperate attempt at damage control. You see, the tension has been simmering beneath the surface for far too long, just waiting for a spark, and now, with this latest incredibly reckless verbal assault on the fan base, it has undeniably boiled over into a full-blown crisis.
Popularity, Paige Bueckers did too, but they don't need to be a part of the Caitlin Clark conversation. Caitlin Clark is the reason for the boom in the WNBA, point blank, period. It's not because of no Angel Reese. It's not because of no Paige Bueckers. They were some of the lowest. They had some of the lowest attendance for their games throughout the entire season. So I don't know why they keep trying to lump them in with Caitlin Clark. But whatever. It's hard to imagine the WNBA players would get vastly increased salaries they're going to receive as part of a ratified CBA, or at least their salaries wouldn't have increased to the same degree. Now, we know they wouldn't be asking for all this money if it wasn't for Caitlin Clark.
So, where did these controversial comments actually originate? The transcript reveals that White's remarks stemmed from an appearance she made on Sue Bird's iView podcast, a pretty high-profile platform, while she was ostensibly discussing the WNBA's massive, sudden growth, the very growth we just talked about. She declared, and I quote, "I like to change the toxicity around our league." Now, on the surface, just hearing that phrase in isolation, it sounds like a perfectly noble, even commendable goal, right? Who wouldn't want to reduce toxicity? But here's the critical distinction. The surrounding context of her comments, combined with the subsequent and immediate fan reactions, quickly painted a very different, far more problematic picture. Fans with a keen eye for what was really going on rapidly saw through what they perceived as a thinly veiled critique. They realized almost instantly that her definition of toxicity conveniently overlooked the blatant, well-documented actions and behaviors of certain players and even organizational shortcomings. Instead of addressing those internal issues, she appeared to be quite simply shifting blame solely and entirely onto the passionate supporters who frankly simply dared to speak up and voice their opinion.
Clark fans, now you are ignoring the things that the players have done. These players have gone on. Enrique Agumbawale was on ESPN during Caitlin Clark's rookie year, calling out fans saying, "We don't want you." We had people like Ryan Howard go at a post-game podium and disrespect A'ja Wilson fans because they showed up and cheered for A'ja Wilson at an Atlanta Dream game that was a home game for the Atlanta Dream. And she gets mad that people are cheering for A'ja Wilson at an Atlanta Dream game. So now hard-earned, hard-working fans who spend...
And the hypocrisy in all of this, according to an overwhelming number of observers and fans, is absolutely staggering. While Stephanie White was out there slamming toxic fans with such conviction, she conveniently, and quite noticeably, ignored a litany of player behaviors that have, without a doubt, fueled negativity and controversy within the league for quite some time. We're not talking about minor squabbles here, we're talking about very public instances where players openly disrespected fans, where shocking accusations of fake racial investigations were initiated, and where public spats and rivalries played out on various social media platforms for everyone to see. These weren't just isolated whispers circulating in the locker room. No, these were high-profile, undeniable incidents that actively and quite significantly contributed to creating an already volatile and often unpleasant atmosphere around the league. Yet, conspicuously, these very actions seem to completely escape White's public condemnation, raising serious, legitimate questions about her true agenda and what she's really trying to accomplish. The double standard here, my friends, is not only glaring, it's frankly impossible for anyone with an objective view to ignore.
Earn money to go to a basketball game, can't cheer for who they want to cheer for. So she's mad that she was disrespecting fans for cheering for A'ja Wilson, but in the same breath, we had Kalia Copper of the Phoenix Mercury get mad and call out fans for booing DeWanna Bonner, who left the Indiana Fever, who was on the opposing Phoenix Mercury team when they went to play in Indiana. So fans can't cheer for an A'ja Wilson on a road game, but they also can't boo an opposing player coming into their arena.
So this begs the crucial question. What exactly can fans do, or better yet, what have fans done? Let's quickly rewind the clock to a time before Caitlin Clark even set foot on a WNBA court. Even back then, the league was already undeniably rife with internal politics and simmering frustrations. We had players like Angel Reese openly discussing and even championing the idea of playing only in alternative leagues, like the much-talked-about Unrivaled League. This was, make no mistake, a very clear and intentional dig at the WNBA's existing structure and its perceived shortcomings. Then, not long after, we saw players like Satu Sabali making bold statements, publicly demanding, "Pay us what you owe us," even sporting protest shirts during the highly visible All-Star break. These were not minor grievances. These were undeniable, very public signs of deep-seated issues already existing within the player community itself, and frankly, within the league's own infrastructure. And all of this was happening before the so-called toxic fans, often those now aligned with Caitlin Clark, even began to voice their frustrations. When you look at the full picture, the convenient narrative of fan-induced chaos is not just flawed, it is quite severely and demonstrably a misrepresentation of the truth.
An A'ja Wilson on a road game, but they also can't boo an opposing player coming into their arena. what can fans do? We've seen all types of fans be called racist. Black fans of Caitlin Clark, like myself, be called the raccoons, all types of stuff. These people come at the fans all the time. The players. You never address the things that these players have done to contribute to any negativity around the league. You never do that. It took Nafisa Collier getting taken out for the...
Now, let's get down to brass tacks. The WNBA's recent, truly astonishing boom in popularity is overwhelmingly, if not almost entirely, due to the undeniable gravitational pull of Caitlin Clark. This isn't it's a measurable reality. Yet, despite this blindingly obvious truth, constant, often transparent, attempts are still made to dilute her singular impact. How? By vaguely lumping in other prominent players like Angel Reese and Paige Bueckers, even though their respective teams are consistently struggling with some of the lowest attendance figures across the entire league. This constant, almost strategic downplaying of Clark's singular, transformative influence, even while the league and teams are simultaneously leveraging her immense appeal to sell tickets and boost ratings, is a profound, deep source of legitimate fan frustration. It's an incredibly bitter pill to swallow for fans who literally watch their favorite players' contributions being minimized and dismissed, while others, seemingly, are attempting to ride her coattails and bask in her reflected glory. This frustrating dynamic, make no mistake, actively fuels the very perceived toxicity that Stephanie White now so harshly decries.
Don't make that about fans. The organization, there's been organizations such as the Indiana Fever who lied and hid injuries about Caitlin Clark the whole time, all while using her to sell tickets and saying she's game to game and day to day for months at a time. You don't think that contributed? See, you guys want to make this just about the fans, and I've watched all of these players go out and disrespect fans, all while trying to use the money and the fandom that Caitlin Clark has brought in to capitalize and to make money off of. What are we talking about here?
And here's where the financial implications become absolutely undeniable. This unprecedented surge in popularity, driven primarily, if not exclusively, by Caitlin Clark, is directly responsible for the vastly increased salaries that WNBA players are now poised to receive through the new collective bargaining agreement. Let me be unequivocally clear. Without her, these substantial, life-changing pay raises would in all likelihood never have materialized to this degree, if at all. This is a stark, unvarnished reality, and yet, it's a truth that many players and coaches within the league seem incredibly reluctant, almost unwilling to acknowledge. This creates an enormous and deeply troubling disconnect between the league's financial beneficiaries, the players and coaches themselves, and the very engine, the primary catalyst of that financial growth, the new, engaged fan base brought in by Clark. To then turn around and criticize, even attack, the very fans who made it all possible, who invested their time and money and passion, feels like nothing less than a deliberate slap in the face.
Seem like, oh, the fans are making this top. No. We are calling it like we see it. It's that simple. If you want to call out the toxicity, call out everything around the board. Call out the people that started fake racial investigate. Call out all of it. Don't just try to make it about Caitlin Clark fans. And this is why I believe Stephanie White needs to be fired. And I stand on that. Get down in the comments. Let me know what you think. This is Keep the Vision. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe.
The controversy truly reached a furious boiling point when fans began to systematically point to specific, egregious instances of player disrespect that, inexplicably, escaped White's condemnation. Think about this. Rakuna Williams of the Las Vegas Aces appeared on ESPN during Clark's rookie year and brazenly stated, on national television, "We don't want you." That was a direct, upfront, and profoundly hostile message to new fans, many of whom were drawn to the league because of Clark. This kind of open hostility from players toward a burgeoning, eager fan base is precisely the kind of toxicity that Stephanie White should have addressed head-on, not ignored. Instead, she chose to focus her criticism and ire squarely on the supporters who simply want to enjoy the game and passionately back their chosen athletes. The hypocrisy, in this case, is truly astounding. Then, there was Ryan Howard of the Atlanta Dream, who publicly disrespected fans of Aja Wilson, a star player, for simply cheering for their favorite star during a dream home game. Imagine that. Fans paying their hard-earned money to attend a professional game were effectively told they couldn't cheer for whom they wanted to cheer for. This wasn't just a one-off, isolated incident. It was a brazen display of what many perceived as player entitlement and a complete utter disregard for the paying customers, the lifeblood of any professional sport. Such behavior from athletes directly fosters a negative, unwelcoming environment. Yet White remained conspicuously silent on these specific player actions, while so eagerly condemning fan reactions. The double standards continued with Kalani Brown of the Phoenix Mercury. When Dejanai Carrington, a former Indiana Fever player, returned to Indianapolis with the opposing team, fans naturally booed her, a common occurrence in sports. Brown then publicly criticized the fans for this. So, let me get this straight. Fans can't cheer for an opposing star like Aja Wilson on the road, and they can't even boo a former player who left their team? What exactly can fans do without instantly being labeled toxic or disrespectful? This contradictory, confusing, and frankly arrogant gatekeeping by players only creates more friction, resentment, and division within the WNBA community. And this isn't just about isolated incidents of player-fan friction. This gets even darker. Black fans of Caitlin Clark, including the content creator who bravely exposed White's comments, have been subjected to vile accusations, even being labeled raccoons by elements within the WNBA player community itself. This targeted, deeply offensive abuse, originating from within the league, points to a much deeper, far more insidious, and frankly terrifying form of toxicity that Stephanie White and others conveniently and problematically overlook. It's a shocking reality that fans who simply support a player are met with such poor and racialized attacks from those they admire. The constant narrative, relentlessly pushed by the WNBA establishment and certain players, is that fans are the problem. Yet, let's look at the facts. It was the players who were responsible for Caitlin Clark being the most flagrantly fouled player in the entire league, a damning statistic that speaks absolute volumes about the aggressive, often uncalled treatment she received on the court. This aggressive, often unpenalized play contributed significantly to the justifiable fan outrage who rightly questioned the officiating and the clear targeting of a star player. To blame fans for reacting to such blatant unfairness, for pointing out obvious double standards, is to completely miss the point and shamelessly deflect responsibility. Furthermore, let's turn our gaze to the Indiana Fever organization itself, operating directly under White's coaching. They engaged in highly questionable practices regarding Caitlin Clark's health. The team was widely accused of outright lying and actively hiding her injuries for months, all while continuing to parade her out onto the court to sell tickets, maximizing their financial gain at her potential expense. Conflicting injury reports emanating from the same organization left fans confused, angry, and feeling deeply used and manipulated. This institutional deception undeniably contributed to the overall negativity and lack of trust swirling around the league. Yet, this too was conveniently overlooked in White's blanket condemnation of toxic fans. Consider the broader context. The WNBA is currently in crucial negotiations for its next collective bargaining agreement, with player salaries, naturally, as a central, hotly debated issue. The unprecedented boom in popularity, thanks largely and undeniably to Caitlin Clark, is the only reason players are even in a position to demand vastly increased salaries. To publicly criticize the very fans who generated this immense leverage while simultaneously benefiting from their passion, their attention, and their financial commitment demonstrates a profound lack of self-awareness, gratitude, and strategic foresight. It's a dangerously short-sighted strategy that risks alienating the golden goose that is currently laying all these lucrative eggs. The core of the argument against Stephanie White's stance is incredibly simple, and it comes down to this. If you genuinely want to address toxicity in the league, you must address. This means having the courage to call out players who initiate fake racial investigations, players who disrespect fans at home games, players who boo former teammates, and players who openly disparage new audiences and vital demographics. It means holding organizations accountable for misleading injury reports, for potentially jeopardizing player health, and for using players as mere ticket-selling commodities rather than valuable assets. Selective outrage, where you only target one segment of the community, the fans, is not a solution. It is, in fact, an integral part of the problem itself. The WNBA currently finds itself at a critical juncture, experiencing unprecedented growth. Yes, but also grappling with significant internal strife and deep-seated division. The discourse surrounding players, teams, and rivalries, particularly between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, has undeniably bred nastiness and tribalism online. However, Stephanie White's chosen approach, by isolating and blaming fans, not only fails utterly to address the root causes of the league's issues, but actively exacerbates the existing divisions, turning a moment of incredible opportunity into a crucible of resentment and further alienating the very people needed for sustained, long-term success. Instead of fostering an inclusive, welcoming environment, White's ill-advised remarks have drawn a clear, divisive line in the sand, effectively telling a significant, passionate portion of the fan base that their enthusiasm, their loyalty, and their passion are simply unwelcome. This, my friends, is absolutely not how you build a thriving, robust league. It's precisely how you drive away the very energy, the very investment, and the very passion that keeps it afloat. The WNBA needs unity, not division, and it desperately needs leadership, coaches included, who are willing to acknowledge issues from all sides, not just those that are politically convenient to criticize. Her actions have, without a doubt, painted a massive target on the WNBA's most loyal and rapidly growing supporters. The call for Stephanie White's termination isn't just about anger. It is at its heart about accountability. When a coach publicly undermines the league's biggest star and alienates her immense fan base, it has direct, negative impacts on the entire organization and its future prospects. Such divisive behavior is simply not conducive to fostering a healthy team environment or building a successful business model in the long run. Fans are demanding, and rightly so, that those in leadership positions reflect the core values of fairness, transparency, and respect for all contributors to the league's success, and that absolutely includes the paying audience. The toxic label, now weaponized and flung at those who dare to point out systemic flaws, is a convenient, yet deeply cynical way to silence legitimate criticism and deflect uncomfortable truth. Fans are not creating the problems. They are simply holding up a mirror to what they observe: unfair treatment, glaring player double standards, and glaring organizational missteps. To dismiss their valid concerns as mere toxicity is to deliberately ignore the truth and perpetuate the very issues that are harming the WNBA's long-term health and growth. The real toxicity, perhaps, might be found in the stubborn refusal to acknowledge internal failings and to blame others. Ultimately, Stephanie White's deeply divisive comments on toxicity have unequivocally exposed much deeper fissures within the WNBA, forcing a stark and critical choice upon the league. Will it truly embrace its new, diverse, and incredibly vocal fan base, listening to their legitimate concerns, or will it continue down this path, alienating them with selective blame and unacknowledged internal issues? The entire future of women's professional basketball hinges on this pivotal moment, and the resounding demand for White's removal signals a critical turning point, where fans are no longer content to be mere passive spectators, but active, engaged participants, demanding genuine accountability and respect from all levels of the game.